Start, bench, cut these 3 Penn State running backs in college.
Can
you tell me who Penn State football is playing this weekend?
Sorry, what?
Welcome back into the Penn State Pulse. I'm your host, Dylan Dawson. The long-awaited season preview episode is finally here. Today, I'm going to dive into my predictions for the 2024 Penn State football depth chart, as well as the team's win-loss totals. So I'm not going to waste any time here. Let's dive right into it, beginning with my preseason depth chart predictions as we close in on Game 1 at West Virginia. So at quarterback, this is a pretty easy one to start us off. Drew Aller will return as a second-year starter in his junior season. I have Bo Pribula backing him up and true freshman Ethan Grunkemeyer at third string, who is reportedly having a very nice offseason. At wide receiver, Trey Wallace will start on the outside and will likely be the Lions wide receiver 1 this season, assuming he can stay healthy. In the slot, and my projected wide receiver 2 is Liam Clifford. He appears to have turned a corner this offseason, and we should see a very productive season from Cliff Jr., Cliff number 2, whatever you want to call him. Sean Clifford's younger brother is ready to step up and leave his own reputation here in State College. And I'm just going to throw this out there as well. He'll likely line up in the slot in majority, but he'll play the boundary as well. Andy Kotelnicki is going to have all the receivers moving all over the field with pre-snap motion, so it won't matter too much where they line up, at least on plays where they have motion, which will be a lot. Then at wide receiver 3, I think that's a position that's still up for grabs as we enter the 10-day mark as I'm recording this before the season. As of right now, I have Amari Evans beating out Julian Fleming to begin the season at wide receiver 3, which would probably surprise a lot of people. A lot of you expected Julian Fleming to kind of come in and be the surefire wide receiver 1. It's not going to be the case. He is going to have a tremendous impact on this room. He was brought in to be a leader of the room, which he reportedly has been and will be. He's a very good blocker. I believe he graded out as Ohio State's top run blocker last season, above all of the linemen on the team. So he'll be great blocking on the boundary, downfield. He's going to contribute. It's just not going to be the big play guy that's scoring a touchdown or 2 every game. And he may work his way into the starting rotation, but it's not looking like he's going to start at West Virginia. He'll still contribute quite a bit, though. He'll still play a ton of snaps, and so will others like Hayden Saunders, Tysier Denmark, probably Anthony Ivey. Penn State's also going to have the running backs and tight ends heavily involved in that pass game in a bunch of different and creative ways under AK. Speaking of those running backs, I have for the 3rd year in a row now, crazy to think they're juniors, but Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, I have them once again splitting the starting reps. At running back 3, that's been a spot that's been actually up for grabs all season. I think Cam Wallace is able to hold that down, but true freshman Quentin Martin will also get some snaps and potentially burn red shirt. He came in, I think, at about 190 pounds, which is pretty light at 6'1.5", 6'2". So he's filled out. I think he's up over 200 now, close. So he should be big enough to play. Whether he burns his red shirt or not, I don't know for sure. But I think he's kind of a yellow light guy right now where he has the potential to, but it's not a sure thing. Moving on to tight end. It's clearly going to be Tyler Warren at that top spot, who could be primed for an All-American caliber season. Khalil Dinkins had some younger guys nipping at his heels, but I think he holds on to that second spot. He should be a very nice threat in the receiving game this year. And then at 3 and 4 would be those said younger guys, Andrew Rapplier and true freshman Luke Reynolds, who are both future stars in the making, in my opinion. PSU just continues to progress toward a tight end factory pretty much as the years pass, and this season will be another strong example of that. Moving on to the O-line, I'm just going to go from left to right and list my 5 projected starters. So we have Drew Shelton at left tackle, Venga Ioane, the Washington native, at left guard. I think Nick Dawkins wins the center job, Sal Wormley at right guard, and then Anthony Donko beats out Nolan Rucci at right tackle. Other guys that will play solid reps include Nolan Rucci and true freshman Egan Boyer at tackle. Cooper Cousins probably at all three interior spots. And then guys like Javen Williams and JB Nelson will probably play as swing guys, where they can play as tackle or move inside to guard. Now, as we approach the defense, we will start on the D-line with defensive end. The two starters will be Abdul Carter, then Dennis Sutton. That's been the expectation since pretty much the beginning of the offseason. Backing them up will likely be Amin Vanover, who has quietly had a very nice offseason, and Smith Vilbert. Speaking of Vilbert a little bit, he has put on some extra weight, and the plan right now is to work him inside at 3 tech as well, but he'll also get his fair share of reps on the edge. He's now up to about 6'6.5", 6'7", and 290 pounds, by the way. That is a very big human. He should be a fun one to watch this year. Another name that has generated a lot of buzz this offseason is true freshman Max Granville. And he actually graduated high school a year early and reclassified, for those of you that might have missed that little info nugget. So he's 17 or 18, and he seems to be primed for some legitimate reps already. So that should be a very exciting one to watch. He's a little bit smaller for DN. He's came in about 6'3", 225. I think he's gained a little bit of weight since then. He's very twitched up. He's very quick off the edge. Already drawing comparisons to Chop Robinson, which can be dangerous to project someone to do that well. But if you're getting those projections, it's a good sign, especially that early in your college career. So I don't know if he'll spoil that red shirt, but expect to see number 18 out there for some meaningful snaps in 2024. Moving into the interior of the D-line, at D-tackle, Penn State believes they once again have 4 guys who are starter quality, and I expect them to play all 4 quite a bit. It's pretty much that same 4 core as last year, core 4 core, whatever you want to call it. As far as the 2 names who we see trot onto the field for that first defensive possession against West Virginia, I have Zane Durant and then Devon J. Thomas. A lot of you know him as Devon Elise. He actually changed his last name. I'm pretty sure he did a short interview on that if you want to look into why. And then the other 2 are Keziah Izzard and then Hakeem Beeman. Moving back to linebacker, we should see a lot of the 4-2-5 formation from Tom Allen this season. So there will only be 2 linebackers on the field a lot of the time. I have rising star Tony Rojas lining up next to Kobe King, who will play in the box, as the 2 starters. If they run a 4-3 set, I have Dom DeLuca as the 3rd guy out there. And I've heard in that situation they'll likely slide Tony over to play the will spot and then insert Dom at the Sam. And then Tamir Robinson has had a very nice offseason, and I fully expect that Pittsburgh native to be the 4th guy up in that room. I think Will probably suits him the best, so he would be relieving either Tony Rojas or maybe Dom DeLuca. Next up, we have corner, and a top guy appears to be emerging in that highly competitive room, and that is Georgia transfer and true sophomore A.J. Harris. Cam Miller has stepped up as well, both on and off the field as a leader in recent months, and I have him penciled in as the 2nd starter. And then I believe the 2 deep is rounded out by Florida transfer Jalen Kimber, and then Aldavian Collins, the 4-3 guy who transferred in from Mississippi State 2 years ago now. Also look for Zion Tracy and Elliott Washington to see meaningful reps this season. They pretty much can go 3 deep at corner. They have 6 guys that they think can play legitimate reps. They can throw them in against pretty much any team, any group of receivers, and feel at least fairly confident about it. So that is a very deep and very talented room. Another unit that is absolutely loaded is the safeties, where I have KJ Winston Jr. and Zachy Wheatley leading the way. Jalen Reed will also be pretty much a starter, as they'll play a lot of 3 safety sets in that 4-2-5. I think we'll see him play down in the box a lot, and he's always been a very smart and physical player. So the staff really likes Reed in that hybrid box role, where he can play a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of safety, just kind of wherever they need him on a play-by-play basis. So there you have it. My educated guess as to who you'll see take the field first in week 1 against the West Virginia Mountaineers. So now let's shift toward my game-by-game record predictions.
Finally, a ticket provider all Penn State students want is here. Student Seats, a peer-to-peer ticket marketplace exclusively for college students. It offers a secure and convenient platform where students can buy and sell tickets. The service simplifies the buying and selling experience with fair and transparent pricing and data protection. Student Seats, transparent pricing, and reliable support. Sign up today at studentseats.com.
Of course, starting with that August 31st matchup in Morgantown that is now approaching us very, very quickly. So I think West Virginia gives Penn State some trouble early in that game, maybe a one-score game or a tied game at halftime, but PSU is able to close it out. I don't see it being a very clean game from Penn State as they are breaking in 3 new coordinators who are implementing different schemes, but PSU does get out of there with a win, in my opinion. Maybe by 10 points, 14 points. And then moving on, Penn State's home opener is against Bowling Green, September 7th, I believe, where they'll probably be 30-plus point favorites. Not too much to be said about this one. It should be a comfortable win. And then Penn State gets an early bye week after that. And then they go on to play Kent State in Beaver. It should be another snooze fest, but hopefully another game to learn more about some of the younger guys and the roster depth, and PSU closes out their non-conference schedule with another comfortable win. And then for the first time in 8-9 years, the Nittany Lions actually open their conference play at home, where they'll be playing Illinois. We all know what happened last time Illinois came to Beaver Stadium, and I'd rather not suffer through something like that again. I'm sure the players and staff feel the same way, and PSU wins by 2 or 3 scores. Right, Penn State closes out their streak of 4 home games in a row with their first game against a new conference member, and that is the UCLA Bruins. I think this would be a very interesting and pretty fun game to watch. UCLA should have an explosive offense. I think they have a really underrated quarterback in Ethan Gabers, but I don't see that UCLA defense making a quick enough turnaround to hang with a team like Penn State in 2024. I think UCLA shows up ready to go, but PSU gets the win in fairly comfortable style. And then the first game of a pretty brutal 3-game stretch is at USC. A lot of people are very concerned about this matchup, but I think Andy Kotelnicki will have the Penn State offense rolling by this point in the season. 2 things travel very well in college football, and that is defense and the run game. Penn State should be pretty strong in both categories, and USC's defense won't be able to keep up. I think this one's somewhat of a blowout, and Penn State makes it through the first half of the season undefeated at 6-0. Next, after bye week number 2, the Nittany Lions go to Madison to play Wisconsin on the road. I personally have this one pegged as their second toughest game of the season. I think we start to see improvement from Luke Fickell's offense, and this is probably a primetime kickoff in Camp Randall. It's not pretty, but Penn State gets out of there with a very close win, something like 23-20, 24-20, but they get it done. After that, PSU then has to close this 3-game stretch with a matchup against potentially the top team in college football this season, which would be the Ohio State Buckeyes in Beaver Stadium. There's a path to a Penn State win here, but I think OSU's offensive firepower, is too much to keep up with, and PSU drops their first game of the season to move to 7-1, but still squarely in the playoff picture. Penn State next will battle Washington in a November whiteout in Beaver. I think PSU will play this game with a lot of intention. They will play aggressively, and it's not very close from the beginning. Think something similar to last year's whiteout game against Iowa. That's what I see playing out. I think the Nittany Lions use that momentum to propel themselves into a strong finish to the season, in which they play at Purdue, at Minnesota, and at home versus Maryland to close it out. I think those are all 3 pretty comfortable wins, and they're able to finish the season at 11-1. I was very close to predicting 10-2 with a loss at Wisconsin, which probably still would result in a Penn State playoff berth under James Franklin. But regardless, I do have PSU making the 12-team college football playoff in a pretty strong season. Came down to either 10-2 or 11-1. I don't really see any other possibilities. I mean, maybe they slip up and lose a third, but probably not 12-0. But I'd say 10-2 or 11-1 is very likely. I think they make the playoff. Pretty sure we'll see the offense take a step forward this season to where they look competent against elite defenses. I think the defense probably takes a small step back, but it's still more than enough to keep this team in every game they play. That defense last year lost a ton of talent, as well as maybe the best coordinator that this program has ever seen in Manny Diaz. He had them as a top 5 defense last year in most major categories, and that was just a ton of fun to watch. It's pretty hard to keep that up. I think Tom Allen will put out a great product, but probably not quite that caliber, at least in year 1. So that is all I have for y'all today. Really hope you enjoyed your watch or enjoyed your listen. Let's hope for 11-1 Penn State and Indy Lions in 2024, maybe 12-0. Probably not, but let's hope so. The season's just around the corner, so buckle in. I appreciate all of you and your support. Until next time, I'm your host, Dylan Dawson. Have a good one.